today, and now you feel fat today also. You're welcome. And now there's a podcast.
Welcome to I Feel Fat Today, the show where we dispel diet myths, see what's new in diet culture, and investigate your relationship with food. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a solo episode, people. It's me and you and my sunglasses. Am I ripping off Gabby Windy? Maybe I'm ripping off Gabby Windy with my sunglasses as I podcast. But you know what? These are prescription. So, no, in reality, I just really couldn't get it together and do my makeup. So I said, you know what? Sunglasses and some lipstick. And I'm regretting the lipstick because I feel like it's going to be all over my teeth. That's just the vibe for today's show. Okay, let's get into it. I'm so excited to chill with everybody here because I feel like it's been a minute since we checked in. I feel like the episodes lately have just been going straight into it with the guests, which have been phenomenal guests. I hope you've been enjoying it. But yeah, for today, it's just you and I this week. Before we get into the fun stuff, which, boy, is there a lot of fun stuff to get into. We follow us on social media at I Feel Fat Today. I am clipping out the show finally. So now you can get micro doses of I Feel Fat Today. Think of it as like, I don't want to say low-cal sweet treats, but like tasting samples of the podcast. I'm clipping out the episodes there. And you can follow me on Instagram as well at Hello, This is Kelly. Get my follower count up. It helps me. If you discovered me somehow, get in on the ground level. You can say I followed her before she was anywhere near 10K. And subscribe to us on YouTube where we have full video episodes just like the very one that you're listening to right now. Head over there, subscribe. You'll be notified every week when there's a new episode. And yeah. Another great thing to do. It's following and subscribing and leaving reviews are all wonderful ways to support the people that you enjoy for free. And free is my favorite thing. After you've subscribed on YouTube, head over to Apple Podcasts where you can leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a review. Let the people know that you like the show. Again, easy to do. Probably takes 2 seconds. And yeah, it'll be great. Where to begin? So many great things to talk about. Really wish I could have gotten this recorded and out last week, but it just so goes. It couldn't happen. So I appreciate everybody's patience with me. First things first, at the top of the show, I'm going to brag a little bit, but it's my show, so I get to. This week, or last week, by the time this comes out, I hit 50 Pure Barre classes. I am officially in the 50 club. And wow, does that feel amazing. And if you've been a long-time listener of this show, you may have caught on to the fact that I have a very complicated relationship to exercise. And I don't even know how I got there. But it just was one day after Thanksgiving. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving. Joe and I stayed in our apartment, which was so nice. And I had recently started at the job I'm at now. And, you know, in November was the first month. So you're kind of getting acquainted to everything. And I was about 2 weeks into this job and they were like, oh, you can sign up through WellHub through being employed here. So I did. And I was just taking a look at the various studios and what the app had to offer. And it was the day after Thanksgiving, or no, it was Thanksgiving evening. We were home. I was just chilling on the couch, doing what I do, staying up way too late. And I saw Pure Barre. Like there was a Pure Barre studio close to where I live. And I thought, I don't know, maybe I can do that. I feel like I've seen this come up on my TikTok feed every now and again. So I just spent the whole night. Like, I probably stayed up till 4 a.m. just researching everything that I could find about Pure Barre, and is it inclusive for everybody? Can you go from not exercising at all to all of a sudden going? And I ran through all the different scenarios in my mind, and finally, before I went to bed, I said, you know what? I'm going to book this class, even though I'm scared, even though I think I'm going to hate this. I'm just going to do it. And then that day, that Friday, I went and I had the hardest time ever. It was so hard. Pure Barre is, I call it, I describe it as Pilates because it's, well, I don't know. I don't think I've actually ever done a Pilates class, but it's all just like calisthenics essentially. It's all using your body. Like there's, some 5 pound at most free weights. I use 3 pound weights, and like one of those resistance bands and one of those small inflatable balls that like aren't even heavy, and you just use that stuff to work out. And it's a lot of like, and then of course there's a bar that you work off of, and it's a lot of standing on your tippy toes and bending your knees, and you don't realize how hard it is to move certain ways, and how if you don't practice some mobility, you just won't have it. And that was my biggest takeaway from the first class was, wow, like, yeah, of course my stamina was low. Like the literal first 30 seconds of the class, I thought like, there's no way I'm going to be able to survive this. Like I can't do it. But the thing beyond the stamina that was, I found so difficult was just like the inability to stretch a certain way or like kick my feet up a certain way. And like, it's definitely all things that I took for granted. And I think that taking that like leap to decide to do something really scary and out of my comfort zone with the knowingness that like, I just have to do it once and then I never have to do it again was the impetus to like help me figure out what movement I like. Because then after I did that, I was like, okay, well, if I made it through this like really difficult thing in an environment I'm really uncomfortable in, I can try other things. So I tried a cycling class and I found a yoga studio that I really like and that I still frequent sometimes. And I found like a dance cardio studio that if I, get sick of bar and want to change it up and go there, I can. And it kind of like opened up this whole world of possibilities as far as like what exercise, if I want to be really mindful about having movement that's beyond just going for long walks, which was my exercise for a long time, which is great exercise. And I stand by it. I wanted to up the intensity out of nowhere. And this is the longest I've ever been committed to exercise in the longest time. And I 100% attribute my ability to stick with being consistent with going to bar class for the past 4 months with the fact that I took weight loss out of it. And I feel like people say that and they don't really mean it. I 100% mean it. That doesn't say that I don't still get down on myself, that I still don't, look at my body in the mirror and like wish things were different or felt really good about it or felt really bad about it. It's a complicated thing, but truly it's the first time I went into exercise where I'm not weighing myself obsessively, where I'm not tracking every single morsel of food that goes into my mouth. And I totally understand and empathize and respect that if that's your journey that you're on, if you're on a weight loss journey and like you want to take those strict measures and that works for you, that's awesome. And I honestly wish I had that ability. For me, if I go anywhere near tracking, it will completely derail me because I just get obsessed with it. It's like, how someone that's an alcoholic can't drink? I can't track my food. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I do enough mental tracking as it is. Like literally I know the caloric value of things just from years and years and years of dieting the entirety of my life. So I'm already dealing with that. Not dealing with that, but I'm already having that going on in the back of my head, that I will completely, the reason why I feel like people say that and then you don't really explain it. The reason why tracking is such a slippery slope for me is, for one, when it comes to tracking my calories, if I eat something that will go past like the daily intake that I'm supposed to have for the day, it's like all of a sudden the signal for the floodgates to open, and I have this fuck it mentality where I throw it all. I throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I'm like, okay, well, time to full on binge because I broke my diet or I went over my calories. When in actuality, it's very normal to try to be in a calorie deficit. Let's say your calorie deficit is 2,000 calories, just to have even numbers. I don't know what an appropriate calorie deficit is anymore, but let's say it's 2,000 calories. If I eat my dinner and my dinner ends up putting me at 2,200 calories, that would be something where I'm like, okay, time, like gloves are off. I already fucked up. It's just this idea of like fucking up and needing to start over, where it'll throw me into a binge. And it took years of therapy for me to understand that. So I'm not saying that there isn't a world in which, like, I'm not saying I think tracking is a bad thing. Tracking just doesn't work for me. Having said that, I like to have ideas of numbers. I like to have concepts of a plan. So for me, I was eating in the mornings, just because I got into the habit of creating these like yogurt parfait bowls. And I got curious about the caloric value, because sometimes I would eat the bowl after not measuring anything and be full, and other times I'd be more hungry. So I thought, oh, my measurements are probably all over the place with this. Like, let me try to follow the serving sizes on the back of these individual things, like, you know, the granola, the Greek yogurt, the honey, the whatever. And let me see what the measurements should be. And I happen to have a food scale in the house I've lived in the same apartment for 10 years. So there's a lot of remnants of diets, you know, ghosts of diets past. And I pulled out the scale and I just measured everything and was able to determine how many calories my breakfast was. I'm comfortable having that information. Like, that is not something that's going to send me down into a spiral, because I'm not saying, okay, breakfast is 400 calories, and so that means for the rest of the day I have X amount of calories. If that works for you, that's great. Maybe I'll get to a place where I can do that, but I'm not interested in doing that because I feel good. I feel stronger. Now when I flex, even though you can't see muscle definition, you can definitely feel it in my arm, and like, oh, I feel taller. I feel like I'm stronger, and it's all about aura. It's all about aura. And yeah, the other thing I was going to say was I definitely, and I don't think I'll ever get to a place where I'm tracking my weight aside from like the occasional check-in at the doctor's office. I definitely can't track my weight, because there have been times, I'm not going to lie, I have a scale in this house, again, from ghosts of diets past. And there will be times where like I get home from a workout and I am feeling good. I'm feeling like a skinny legend. And I get on the scale and I've gained a pound. And it's just like, I want to cry. I want to cry. I want to throw everything away, and I want to quit, and I want to never step into another workout class for as long as I live, because I am just flooded with these feelings of what does it fucking matter? And luckily I've gotten to a place in my life where through therapy I've moved past that a great deal, and was able to move through that and realize, I don't know, let me check my app as to when I'm getting my period. Maybe that has a bearing on what's happening on the scale. Maybe I drank a lot of water in class, or maybe I gained a full fat pound, and that's also fine. Because you know what? I'm still scheduled to go to bar class later that week, because I go 3 days a week. Those are like my non-negotiable days, in which I then negotiate with myself a lot, where it matters or where it's warranted, I should say. So it's not all or nothing. And I'm only talking about this on the show because, well, for one, it's my show and I can. But if you're somebody that's listening and is afraid or not wanting to get into some kind of workout routine, my advice, don't do it for losing weight. Don't do it because you think it's going to be your path to finally having the body that you want. I think for me, it was my path of finally feeling like the way I wanted to feel. And knowing that when the goal is thinness, I am setting myself up for failure. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Got to 50. My goal for the year is 100. I'm well on my way. And there's just something about having achievable goals that make you feel like not a piece of garbage. Okay, moving on. Speaking of being a skinny legend, I touched on it last week in my intro, but not really. For April Fools, I decided to play a dirty, nasty prank. At the time of this coming out, it'll be 11 days ago now. But I posted a prank about that I was going to change the name of my podcast from I Feel Fat Today to I Feel Skinny Today. And it's a post-weight loss surgery podcast. And I have to say, I wondered why it was so believable. I don't think that the absolute earnest caption that I wrote helped at all. It was earnest in the beginning as far as, I wanted to create a show that my 16-year-old self could have. But the whole bit's about, only loving myself if I'm in my thinnest form. That was all a joke. And I ended the post with hashtag April Fools. People don't read captions, and that's on me. So yeah, people thought that I was changing the whole concept of the show and the name of the show from I Feel Fat Today to I Feel Skinny Today and talk about weight loss surgery. I'm not. If I ever have weight loss surgery, you guys will be the first to know. I'll tell you that. Which brings me to my next topic, Remi Bader. We're gonna talk about her, and I have to thank her for inspiring my April Fool's prank because it was so apropos. Yeah, so Remi Bader, talked about her a lot on the show. I actually, not last week, because last week was my episode with John Hedrick. Listen to it. It's very good. He talks about being a male model. But the week before, because of traveling, I had to put out my very first replay episode. So I recasted a show from the past, from earlier weeks of the show. And I chose the one that I did with Max Spinelli because at the beginning of that episode, I did an intro where I broke down a video that Remi had posted about being upset that she was getting bullied online, essentially, and how she wasn't going to be transparent at all with diets that she does, medical intervention that she may or may not have had. And so I kind of reviewed and broke down that video on the show. And I replayed it 2 weeks ago, the week that Remi went on the Khloe Kardashian podcast and unveiled that she had this weight loss surgery. And so I just have to say a few things about that. If you haven't watched, go back and watch the very beginning of my interview with Max Spinelli. Before I have the interview with him, I break down this video, just me in front of the camera. I break down this Remi Bader TikTok video that she posted in September of 2023. And in that breakdown, I said, you heard it here first, she is going to come out of this skinny and she's probably going to go on Ozempic. Now, I didn't say weight loss surgery, but in my defense, I recorded that when I was on pain meds from 2 root canals that I had had at the dentist earlier that week. And I was so determined to get the episode filmed that I filmed while I was recovering from that off some pain meds. So that's probably why I didn't think to say that she was going to be getting weight loss surgery, but I did say she probably would be doing some kind of medical intervention weight loss. And that's exactly what happened. And I will say, I think in that video, I had more compassion for Remi than I had initially hearing about her going on Khloe Kardashian's podcast to make this announcement finally of fessing up to having weight loss surgery. I think I had a lot of compassion for her because it's an awful thing. It's an awful thing to be ridiculed for the way that you look. I've already said it before on there. And I feel like in this interview she had with Khloe, it was a proper read on my part, of, because she mentioned it in the interview of how it's hard hearing people talk awfully about you, and then it's also hard being kind of in this like weird in between size where you are too big for plus and you're too small for plus, but you're way too big for standard, and each of these communities are telling you that you don't belong. All sentiments I echoed in that episode that I re-released 2 weeks ago. But yeah, so this isn't going to be a full breakdown of the Remi Bader, Khloe Kardashian podcast. I say listen to the podcast. People that recap podcasts are great. That's something you can enjoy. I feel like by now, if you haven't listened to the podcast, or a recap of it, then you're not going to. But this is just my thoughts and feelings on it. So first things first. Remi Bader finally came out with the news of her getting weight loss surgery. But at first I was so annoyed when I heard this. I was so not annoyed. Okay, I wasn't annoyed that she had weight loss surgery. I was annoyed at how the information came out because she had been so not even cagey, just straight up not answering people when they would ask about weight loss surgery. She, or not weight loss surgery, but like, hey, what'd you do to lose this weight? You look amazing. And it's comments on videos of her working out. And I have a problem with her posting videos of her working out and losing a ton of weight because like, that's not realistic. And that's not, you're speaking to a population of people who follow you for better or for worse, and maybe it wasn't your intention for this to be your fan base, but you have a huge fan base of people that follow you, and because they see themselves in you, you mirror their literal physique, and then all of a sudden you're shrinking. But not only are you shrinking, you're posting videos of yourself at a wellness retreat in the Berkshires and and working out in the gym, as if to say these were the steps that I took to make this happen, to have this new physique. And I know you didn't explicitly say that, Remi, but you did. And it was implied. It was implied, but obviously it takes a reasonable person to know that that's not how you lost the weight. You lost the weight through medical intervention, which is also fine. But not mentioning it until now pissed me off because I wasn't able to get verification of this. But in the way that the news was released, it felt like it came out primarily on Khloe's podcast and through Self magazine. And when I see something like that, I immediately think, oh, she sold the story. And I don't know if that's true. But I will tell you, if it comes out, if it's known knowledge that she sold the story of how she lost this weight after, a year and a half of people speculating, that pisses me off. It's like it annoys me when people sell their wedding to like People magazine. You know how like Kim Kardashian did that with Chris Humphries? She like sold the wedding to People's magazine so it was exclusive to them. That's what it felt like. And I mean, hey, get your bag, I guess, but it's just like so much of people's issues with plus size influencers literally downsizing themselves and then not acknowledging it is because you made money off of people that look to you, and that's not cool. So that's initially why I was mad. I will say, as this goes on, as I continue to record and get my thoughts out, I will become much more sympathetic to Remi, but just have to state up top like how I was feeling and like why I thought it was janky. Okay, so people were speculating, why did she go on Khloe Kardashian's podcast? Also, I do want to preface this by saying my thoughts and opinions that I'm saying now directly into this recorder and into this camera are an amalgamation of 2 weeks worth of TikToks of people giving their opinion on this situation. I do want to say that because it's impossible for me to have an original thought or opinion on this at this point because I've ingested so much content about it. Aside from, did she sell the story? Because I don't think I came across anyone speculating that. But okay, so why did she go on Khloe Kardashian's podcast? A lot of people online were saying, oh, well, this is just her further, making herself unattainable to people. Like, she was an everyday girl. That's why I followed her. I liked her because I saw myself in her. She seemed normal. She didn't seem like she was elite. Now she's going on Khloe Kardashian's podcast. Why would she do that? It makes perfect sense to me why she would go on Khloe Kardashian's podcast. Khloe was the ugly duckling of the Kardashian clan. And Khloe's glow up, or whatever you want to call it, was it was in the news. Everyone was talking about when it looked like Khloe Kardashian got a head transplant. So I think even though, people forget, even though it kind of seems like out of left field for her to go on Khloe Kardashian's podcast, it makes perfect sense why she would do that, because Khloe was publicly scrutinized for going from looking one way to another, and her having to, deal with that. It does feel a bit out of touch because that does feel so long ago. It still was a part of Khloe's life. It still was something that she had to go through. I mean, I can't really cry for a billionaire, but it's, still it makes sense if I was in Remi's head and I wanted to figure out how to get this story out there in the way that would make me the most money, I probably would go on Khloe Kardashian's podcast just because it aligns with people scrutinizing you. And there are also two people that were cagey about how they lost the weight. And there's a whole school of thought of people that say she owes you nothing. This is her medical information and that's private. I think that totally plays when you're a private citizen. Remi Bader is incorporated at this point. She is a business. She is a brand. She's an influencer. And I'm not saying that every single influencer owes us the intimate details of what they're into, but if you were the host of a sex and relationship podcast and you talked about topics like polyamorous relationships, I think it would be kind of weird if you yourself, as the host of a sex and dating podcast, was in a polyamorous relationship and didn't you yourself talk about it. So I think that her weight and her body size was always part of her brand, because she came onto TikTok doing realistic store hauls. And so people that are not in standard sizes could see themselves in clothes worn by somebody that wasn't of a standard size. And listen, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. It sucks that that's what your brand became and you didn't want that to be your brand because you never enjoyed the way that your body looked and you didn't enjoy being in a plus size body. I think that if you had some more transparency about that, which I do think she was transparent about her struggles with being in her body, but to just do a 180, it's what people have an issue with. The other thing that stuck out to me with this podcast, there were moments where I really felt for her and moments where I was so annoyed with her. I mean, it just, I guess that's what I normally I'm usually on people's side or against them, like from the beginning. I really oscillated with Remi with listening to this podcast. The thing that stuck out to me the most, or one of the things that stuck out to me, was her admitting to messaging people before, when she wasn't an online person, about how they lost the weight. So she said, and it was kind of like a throwaway line, but she did say in the interview with Chloe that she understands why people would reach out to her about how she lost the weight, because before she was an online person, she did that. She would see celebrities and influencers that looked one way and now look another. And she would message them saying, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" But then when her own fans did that, she would block them. And listen, I have empathy for her because I don't want to see that. Maybe in her mind, she's like, I can't deal with this. Like, maybe she felt weird or conflicted about even doing the surgery to begin with. And so she didn't want to tell people about what she did. And, I'm sure, I don't think Remi went about, getting this weight loss surgery thinking that it would pan out the way that it did. And I don't think she thought about what it would look like if people were messaging her and commenting, "Hey, you look amazing. How did you lose this weight?" The optics of her blocking them, because what the optics are is that you're trying to distance yourself from ever having been a person that lost a lot of weight. It looks to us that you're removing these comments so that we forget, just like how people forget with how Chloe used to be a bigger person. She wasn't, but societally she was. It seemed like Remi was trying to achieve that same thing. And so in reality, she probably was just like, I totally turn into an ostrich with things that I don't want to confront. So it probably was like, okay, delete it. I don't want people asking me because I don't want to think about this. I feel weird about this decision that I made. Maybe that was the reality of it. And I think that's really what it was. But before she came out and said, "Hey, I had weight loss surgery. This is why I look so different," people could only speculate. And this whole conversation sounds crazy. But again, we're going into a recession. You can't make money off of people and then lie to them. Sorry, your personality is part of your product. So I think you're coming from an immense place of privilege if you think that influencers don't owe that kind of transparency to you. When you made money off of being plus size and paving the way for size inclusion. Like going to a Victoria's Secret fashion show and representing. I don't know. I don't want to go off into a tangent. I'm almost done with this. Before I move on to the next topic, because Remi is not going to be my only topic of conversation here. Something that I think that if she had a crystal ball and could go back in time, she said two things that I think would have radically transformed the public's perception of her being in a completely new body. She said that there were, one thing that she pointed out was that there's rules with bariatric surgery. And so she, going in and getting a bariatric surgery, all of a sudden, like, she has to eat a certain kind of meal. Like you're like a baby. You can't get back into solid foods until like a few weeks of having a special like soft food liquid diet, blah, 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 blah. There's so much that goes into bariatric surgery. She could have been open and made money off of that. She could have made money off of taking people on her bariatric surgery journey And I feel like now she's been kind of like trying to retroactively post content from when she was really big and initially got the surgery and she was so sick, and was showing how awful it was. And to me, it just kind of looks like you're trying to get people to feel bad for you retroactively by saying like, oh, I got this bariatric surgery. The recovery was freaking awful. And it's like, been there, done that. I don't care. You know what would have been cool if you said, hey guys, I've made the decision to have weight loss surgery. I'm going to take you on this journey with me with what I feel comfortable. I don't want to give you all of the horny details, but I will take you along for the ride, and it can be informational. I'm not a doctor, but this is me, this person, going through this. Maybe you're on a bariatric, journey as well. I'm not saying that everyone would have been like, yes, Remi, we're so excited for you, Remi. That's amazing. She would have gotten hate. She would have gotten hate for announcing she's having weight loss surgery before she ever got it. I'm sure I would have an opinion about it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the public wouldn't have had an opinion about it. But I can 100% tell you she would have been way better off from a PR standpoint if she had been more upfront and not weird and cagey and deleting comments and all of a sudden popping up in a new body. Than if she had just said, I'm going to do this. And maybe not even take us along for the ride, but still just say, hey, I'm going to be looking different. She did say in her interview with Khloe Kardashian that, like, I didn't know I was going to lose all this weight. Honey, I wasn't born yesterday. You can't sit here and say you didn't know you were going to lose 150 pounds, that you loved your curves, that you really wanted to keep them. You got a portion of your stomach cut out. Like, but again, maybe that's her truth. I'm not, I don't want to nitpick, even though I just did. And then the other thing she mentioned was that she was nervous to talk about it because she didn't know how she'd feel in a year about the surgery. Like if she would be happy that she did it, unhappy that she did it. That's the benefit of documenting your journey. You can say, I'm going into this process and I'm expecting to be really happy with losing 10 pounds according to what, you thought the amount of weight you were going to lose. No, I'm just playing. But like you could have said like, I'm excited to lose 100 pounds. And then in a year from then, we could check back in and you could be like, okay, guys, I lost way more weight than I thought. If I knew I was going to lose this much weight, I maybe would have reconsidered the surgery. I feel X, Y, and Z about the surgery now that I'm a year out. I just think that there were so many other ways that she could have played it. And there was one take on TikTok that I thought really hit it on the head. And I'm sure multiple people came across or came up with this point of view, but I heard it from this one person. And I can't remember who it was. It was I forget. If I remember, I will put it in the show notes. And you can go to my TikTok. I think what's my TikTok name? Modern Goth Girl. Maybe I should probably change that to my Instagram name. Hello, this is Kelly. But if you find me on TikTok, I repost a bunch of videos, and I reposted the takes about Remi Bader's, this whole thing that I really liked. And the one that stuck out to me the most that I reposted was of this person saying that Remi never wanted to be a plus size influencer because she hated being plus size. And people say that, oh, now she's unrelatable because she's just like Danielle Bernstein. That's because she always wanted to be Danielle Bernstein. And that's what, and again, I'll say, that's where I think her presence, her voice in the sphere of plus size content could have been so great, because so much of what body positivity is now is you have to love your body. You have to love your body. You have to love your body. And that's like saying you can manifest winning the lottery. It's like, just think about wanting to win the lottery, and eventually you'll win the lottery. It's like, if I just think about how much I love my body, eventually I'll love my body. It's like, no, that's not the reality of it. It's a much more nuanced, arduous process to be right with the skin that you're in. It's the curse of being in a body. And I think that it could have been awesome if Remi clued us in more. We got hints of it, but it would have been awesome if she clued us in more on like, yeah, I feel a lot of pressure from my family to be thin. Do you know what it's like when if you're listening to this, you probably do, but do you know what it's like to have a family member not like the body that you have? It makes their love feel conditional. So many people experience that. For people where that's not foreign to, it's so validating to see it in other people. And you can, for me, I can see an obvious shift in her relationship with her mother, namely, now that she's thinner. And it's like, okay, Remi, I'm glad your mom's happy, but are you? So, I mean, probably. She's skinny now. Isn't that the dream? Okay, yeah, so that's my thoughts on feelings on that. I will say I have a lot of empathy for Remi. I'm not going to block her. However, if you don't fuck with her after this, just as, you know, dollars and cents are currency, so is follower count. And so if you're not down with it, if you don't want to be a part of it, unfollow. You know, it's, you know how they say vote with your dollar, you know, create content that people take in with who you follow. And so that's the best way you can protect your peace, is if you unfollow creators that don't serve you. Okay. One more thing I'll say about this before I move into my next topic, which I'm so excited to speak on. And I hope to speak on this at greater length, maybe with having an interview with someone on the podcast that wants to talk about this with me, because I can only spout my thoughts into the camera for so long. But something you are going to see moving forward on the internet is radical transparency from influencers. Influencers saw the backlash that Remi got of coming out with work that she had done. And now you are going to know about you're going to know about every nip, about every tuck. You are going to know about the dark and dirtiness behind people's social lives. Influencers, we are walking into the era. We are in the era of influencers being incredibly, incredibly transparent. You can't tell me that makeup artist, what's her name? Michaela Negroni. I can't remember her last name, and I don't have a producer here to look it up for me. But you cannot tell me that Michaela coming out about her husband, poor thing, I do feel bad for her about this. Her husband's in rehab. She would get on the internet and be like, guys, I'm going through a really hard time. Oh, it's been really rough over here, but we're being strong. And she would like do her makeup while saying she's going through such a hard time. And everyone in the comments is like, what is happening? You're going through a hard time. All of a sudden she posts about her husband being in rehab. And honestly, shouts out to her. I think it's awesome to be open about that. So many people deal with addiction themselves or loved ones in addiction. I'm sure it's great seeing an influencer who feel like probably has this glamorous life dealing with something like that. But she's also a businesswoman at the end of the day, and you can't tell me that the two things aren't related. God bless her. I hope everything is well with her and her family. But yeah, you're going to see radical transparency. Like, tell me why the second Remi Bader came out with weight loss surgery, all of a sudden I'm seeing, Brooke Schofield on TikTok with her face all hatchet up because she got upper bluff surgery that she didn't need on her eyes. That's going to be the future of influencers. They are going to be in your face, letting you know about all the skeletons, all the dirty secrets, everything. You're going to see it a lot more until the wave goes back down to everything being secret and exclusionary. All right, so that's my thoughts and feelings on that. We're about 40 minutes in, a little over 40 minutes. Okay, I have one more topic to discuss in the rest of the time of this episode that I've been so excited to talk about. I did some research, and again, like I said, I would love to talk about this with someone that's as invested in this channel of the internet as I am. But I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk to you about SkinnyTok. So SkinnyTok is taking your algorithms by storm. I know it's taking my algorithm by storm. My entire algorithm is SkinnyTok. If you don't know what SkinnyTok is, it is a lane of TikTok where people talk about how awesome it is to be skinny, and they give tips and tricks and motivation to be as skinny as possible. Now, lots of opinions on SkinnyTok out there, as if it's a good thing, if it's a bad thing, where do you stand on it? Public opinion, general public opinion, will say that SkinnyTok is very reminiscent of the ED Tumblr era. And I even go as far back to MySpace ED pages that not infantilized, sensationalized being thin and gave you tips on how to go about having an eating disorder in the best way possible. Some of the key players in SkinnyTok are Liv Schmidt. Now, Liv Schmidt, I could do a whole profile on her exclusively for an hour. Liv Schmidt would post what I eat in a days and would share weight loss tips. And from what I noticed, a lot of her what I eat in a days were that they were of very, very small portions. And so one school of thought online is saying that she's just showing what she eats, you know, what to do to lose weight. And there's others that are saying she's promoting eating disorders, because if you're somebody, let's say you're a 14-year-old and you have TikTok like any other red-blooded American 14-year-old, you probably have TikTok, and you're scrolling through and you see a Liv Schmidt video of what I eat in a day, and her what I eat in a day sums up 1,600 calories. You might be so inclined as a teenager to think that's what I should be eating. And that's why people, and why I also believe content like that is dangerous and how it does promote eating disorders. Now, I also believe that that the responsibility is on the consumer to not take in every bit of information that they see online and then have that become the worldview of how they operate through life. But I mean that for 25 and up. Like, I mean that for adults. And there are kids on this app. TikTok is an app for children. And so that kind of, and we forget that because we're adults that are as addicted to it as a 14-year-old, but still. So Liv Schmidt is not even allowed on TikTok anymore. She was banned. And when she initially was banned, she created a new account. And in the bio of the new account that she created following her ban, in the bio it said, "It's not a sin to want to be thin, saving America from obesity one person at a time." Which, I mean, she probably was pissed off for having been banned. So I can understand, you know, that kind of energy behind creating a new account. But it's like, I have no sympathy for the war on thin people. You're just not going to get that out of me if you're trying to come up with this idea that, you know, skinny people are a minority, that, you know, sorry, it's a sin to want to be thin. Like, get the fuck out of here. You might be at risk of extinction because you're so thin. You might not exist for too much longer, but that's just me being petty. I felt very lucky to really not have Liv Schmidt videos come across my algorithm. She was banned by the time I really caught wind of her, and she no longer has a presence on TikTok. She is very much still on social media though, and I do not recommend going and following her. I do not. She says things that are not cool. She has said at one time, like she would say things like, "When I hang out with my bigger friends, they try to push food on me," and maybe that's her experience because she's in the mind of Liv Schmidt. And a lot of times your reality becomes what you construct it to be. And so when she's with people that she deems bigger, aka people that are not a size 00, in her mind, they are pushing food on her when really they're, offering her a little bit of the meze. But in her mind, it's like, oh, they're pushing food on me. When I would if I ever came across a video of something like that, there's a lot of comments that say, yes, my friends do that to me all the time. My bigger friends are always pushing food off on me. And so it validates this person putting that kind of stuff out into the world, as is her right. But it's my right to sit here and critique it. So that's one of the key players of SkinnyTok. Even though she's banned, she's still very much in the talk of SkinnyTok. The other person that has sort of eclipsed her because her account is not banned is this person, Mina Zali. So I would say Mina, for me, sticks out the most as far as being someone that uses shame to push a skinny agenda. She says things like, eat small, be small. So, go to McDonald's and eat half your meal. You can have McDonald's, but you just have to eat half. Or she would say things like she wants to instill being thin into her daughter so that she doesn't get fat. And, she's just this very gorgeous looking woman that posts videos while she's on her 10K a day walks, letting you know about how much better life is when you're skinny. And it's funny because in my mind, I've made up the opinion that SkinnyTok is fuck ass. I don't fuck with SkinnyTok. I think it's toxic. I think it's bad. I think that it breeds an unhealthy culture and relationship to food, and it demonizes food in a very, very sick way. But there is not now, but when I first was like seeing these videos come up on my feed a lot of people talking about SkinnyTok, there was a part of me that thought like, oh, well, they kind of do have a point. Like my life living in a thinner body has always been easier than my life in a bigger body. And people do treat me better and that speaks to the sickest part of your brain. Now, there's this podcast called Celebrity Memoir Book Club, where they a clip of their podcast came up on my feed, and I thought they nailed what is so fucked up about SkinnyTok. And so I kind of want to like summarize that for you because this wouldn't be an original thought, but they were talking about how a lot of their feed is coming up in defense of SkinnyTok, and people say that SkinnyTok is just being honest about what it takes to get skinny, and don't you want people to be healthy? But that's not what's happening. It's like fueling the feel good part of your brain that wants to be, that wants to speak to that sickest part of being thin and withering away, and not eating is better than being full and nourished and potentially in a bigger body. It's glorifying thinness. And so they talked about that in this TikTok clip that came up on my feed, and I thought they so wonderfully were able to explain why SkinnyTok is bad. And honestly, seeing a clip like that kind of like snapped me back into reality of like, yes, that's what's wrong with it. And the only times I thought that SkinnyTok maybe isn't that bad is when I was thinking how life is quote unquote easier as a thin person. And why is that? Yeah. So the other key player here that I would be remiss to not mention would be Abby Sharp. So Abby Sharp is a dietitian that reviews people's what I eat in a day. And I would say Abby Sharp is an enemy of SkinnyTok. And she is somebody that I never understood why. At all the comments, all of the I've seen so many videos of people like mad at Abby Sharp, and I never understood why, because anytime an Abby Sharp video came up on my page, it was just a video of her reviewing people's what I eat in a day. And so let's say somebody, and it's of people of all genders, shapes, and sizes. It's not particularly thin people. It's not particularly fat people. Abby will review like someone doing a what I eat in a day, and they're like, I start off my day at Dunkin' Donuts, and I got hash browns and a coffee. And Abby will pause it and say, totally love going to Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast. I need my coffee in the morning too. I would say that to really beef this breakfast up, try getting one of their wake up wraps because the protein in the egg will keep you fuller longer. Like, she'll just do shit like that. And I think that it's cool having a registered dietitian, someone that is a professional in the field, unlike fucking Liv Schmidt or Mina Zali, coming on and kind of almost being like a guidepost in this, like, when you're waiting the shit of online content, kind of having like a buoy be like, hey, over here, you know, to be not a guiding light, but to kind of be like a check and balance of that you may have saw the original what I eat in a day, but this is what I eat in a day reviewed by Abby Sharp, and she's able to kind of point out the things that are good or bad or however you want to call it, of someone's what I eat in a day. And I think it's very telling that a community of people on SkinnyTok don't like Abby Sharp, because it's really uncomfortable having somebody call you on your bullshit, and question your personal status quo and what you're comfortable with. But Abby's amazing. I really like her. I would love to interview her one day. She's really cool. I would say definitely check out her page. But yeah, so that's a little bit of a look at SkinnyTok. And you know, if you're somebody that enjoys perusing the web, like as I do, who doesn't? What? If you're somebody that enjoys perusing the web, of course you do. As do I. SkinnyTok comes up a lot on my page, and I kind of feel like I am the maker of my own madness, because I don't engage necessarily, like leaving comments, besides saying I'm in enemy territory. But I might like, or I might save to a collection for my own record keeping, you know, to talk about on something like this or whatever. And it kind of gets my algorithm to serve me that same shit. Like, I don't hit like I don't want to see. But I do think that if you are triggered, if SkinnyTok doesn't work for you, if it makes you feel bad, if you feel like you're going to be going into some bad behaviors, block that shit. You don't need it from your life. Not good. Bye. Out of here. But yeah. Is there anything else I wanted to say about SkinnyTok? I want to speak a little bit more to them saying skinny is easier than being overweight. I feel like it's hard for me to speak on that, because I'm still deconstructing my own relationship with that and my experience living in the different bodies that I've lived in. You know, is it easier to be skinny or is it easier to be fat? I mean, I would say it's commonplace to say that being thinner is easier societally, but it's not easier when you're obsessed with every morsel of food you're putting in your mouth. It's not easier when you're obsessed with making sure you had a hard enough workout. So like, yeah, it might be easier quote easier for you to be treated like a human being in this world, but it's not at all easier to exist as a person when you are obsessed with being thin. That's what I'll say about that. My biggest takeaway from SkinnyTok is that it's shame based motivation. That seems to be very big online, not just on SkinnyTok. There's also a whole channel on the internet of people cleaning their homes and using shame to get you to clean your home. And so shame-based motivation is huge online, and I firmly believe in the depths of my soul that it's false, that you need to shame yourself into submission, that it's false that you need to shame yourself into movement. And that is because it is an unsustainable practice. Shame might get you through the door, shame might get you started, but it is not going to keep you going. And it's kind of long, so I'm going to try to speed it up. But I found this really great video online from a nervous system practitioner, whatever that means. Her name on TikTok is Dana Dawsey. I will include it in the show notes so that you can check out her page. But she posted this really, really awesome video on how shame doesn't actually motivate you. So I'm going to play that because it speaks to what I was saying of how shame-based motivation, I don't think it works.
It is false that shaming ourselves and punishing ourselves and hating ourselves is what we need to make the changes that we believe that we need to make in order to be human beings worthy of love, security, success, and just general stability. Shaming ourselves never works long term. Shame is really associated with a feeling of paralysis within the body. It also encourages isolation, suppressing feelings, and just generally speaking, hiding from that which is actually going to support us and allow us to make healthy, sustainable changes based out of self-respect and self-love. Shame is also the most prevalent emotion and sensation in the body for people that are deeply stuck in freeze or dorsal-vagal shutdown states. This state is the last ditch effort of your nervous system to protect you. So this is literally envision a deer playing dead when it is about to be eaten by a lion or a tiger or something like that. That's what actually happens within your body. Your mind-body connection gets shut down and you go into freeze mode. And then because you have things to do, like all of us, a deadline will cause enough of a stress response in your body, usually to trigger you to go back into the fight or flight response so you can operate from a state of stress in order to meet deadlines, get things done, take care of your kids, so on and so forth. And a lot of people, including myself, bounce back and forth between these two states of shutdown and activation in order to get things done and be able to survive, while shaming ourselves for not being able to stick to things consistently or to not see positive changes in things like anxiety or our depression-related symptoms. And this is because when we continue to use shame and self-hate, we are further adding weight to our nervous system and to something called our allostatic load. And your allostatic load is the total weight, emotional, physiological, that your body is carrying, that is the accumulation of all of your life and all of the stressful and traumatic events of your life. The allostatic load in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it's when the load is too great for your nervous system to carry or hold at any one time in a healthy way that these, what we consider unhealthy or harmful behaviors that are coping mechanisms, have to start to develop in order to make it at least somewhat bearable for you to even exist within your own body. And inevitably, this leads us to further hating ourselves, to shaming ourselves, and for not only feeling bad because we have anxiety, but then feeling shame about the fact that we have anxiety. So in order to actually see real sustainable changes out of self-respect, we first have to go to the emotional root, which is how you feel about how you feel, which represents how you feel about yourself. What we can do there is start de-shaming. So start to actually lift the weight of shame from your body. And this newly liberated energy can then be used to just overall heal your body and be used to enjoy life. Watch my 90-minute workshop on nervous system mapping to begin this de-shaming process in your own life.
Yeah, so I thought that was a very educational and informative video on why shame doesn't work and how it's an unsustainable practice. And there was something that Dana mentioned that I completely relate to, where something like a deadline will have you jump back into activate mode, and that's why you kind of isolate between the two states. And I always say, like, pressure makes a diamond. Like, I'm always working on a deadline, and my deadlines are always extremely tight, and that's part, and it's a cycle I've been trying to get out of for the entirety of my life, because I do use absolute crunch times, last minute, as a motivator. I've done it the entirety of my life. I've never once started a project early and given myself time to be like, yeah, that's already done. No, I've always stayed up the whole night before getting things done since elementary school. So it's not exactly something that you can break a habit of relatively quickly. Yeah. So go follow her. I think that if you're interested in seeing how you can get motivated without having to shame yourself into submission, that could be a great resource. My final thought on all of this is that body positivity is not a scam, as SkinnyTok would like to have you believe. Body positivity is the understanding that your body is not something you should live in shame of. So if you're somebody that has taken on a lot of content from SkinnyTok or just the world, and it has you believing that body positivity is a scam, it's because people have an inaccurate view of what body positivity is. Body positivity is not feeling elated about your body size even though you feel like garbage. If you're an unhealthy person, you're gonna feel like shit. And body positivity is not here to tell you, yeah, you look great and you feel fine. No. But if you happen to inhibit a bigger body and you feel good and you know that you're healthy and you're living a great life, body positivity is just giving you the permission to feel like it's okay to exist as a person and not stop yourself. So much of my life has been me saying, when I lose weight, when this happens for me, I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. That's part of why I didn't get into an exercise routine that I so very much wanted, because I thought, oh, well, when I look a certain way, I'll be able to do it. If I had that mentality, I wouldn't be feeling as good as I do now. And I think that there are other concepts that people don't consider, like the concept of body neutrality, which I think is a much more palatable term, or not even a term, a much more palatable idea. And so neutrality is just the idea that you feel negative nor positive about your body. You just exist in it. That I think is more of what am I trying to say? Body neutrality, I think, is something that can work more for people. But SkinnyTok doesn't ever talk about body neutrality. They just talk about how body positivity is a scam. And I think because it's been co-opted by the wrong people and not by, what fat liberation actually started as, which has a whole wealth of history behind it, because of people's misunderstanding of it, they have this opinion that it's a scam. But like I said, final thought, it's the body positivity is the understanding that your body is not something you should live in shame of. And that is what I am going to jump off of here and end the show. Oh, I did have one other thing really quick, just to end on some levity. There's this trend on TikTok where it's like just instrumental music, and it's a photo of somebody and the text is like, I'm bored, what's your da 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 da, and I'm talking about truly chaotic. And so this one is, what's your go-to secret binge growing up with an almond mom? And I don't mean Oreos. What's something you ate that was truly chaotic? And some of the comments, I've the reason why this trend is so popular is because it's very short form videos. It'll be like a 15-second video that just plays over and over again while you're reading the comments. So it gets a ton of views, and that's, it kind of shoots up the viewer page. But I'm going to read some of my most favorite comments. So this one said, butter and sugar mixed together on a spoon. I would order Chinese food after school and throw the containers in the woods behind my house. A coffee cup filled with marinara and shredded cheese, microwave for 1 minute with a piece of toast for dipping. 5 calorie per spray salad dressing. I'd literally huddle by the fridge and eat straight balsamic vinaigrette, 1 spray at a time. An entire box of Fiber One brownies, heaps of peanut butter on a spoon with chocolate chips from the baking cabinet on top, croutons, salad toppings of all varieties. She stopped buying croutons. And someone finally commented saying, okay, so we agree almond moms made us secret binge eaters when they weren't around to judge. And I thought that was like, it's so funny how like a silly little trend can be so illuminating on something like a really toxic behavior like that. And so when Mina Zali says that she wants to instill thinness, the importance of thinness in her daughter, those comments of what I just read could be the other side of that. If you don't feel safe to ingest food in your home, you might be creating a behavior in which they feel like they have to do it in secret. So that's why it's not good. I will say that was not a thing in my house. My mom, we had snacks on snacks on snacks. Okay, that's it. I gotta go. It's been too long. Thank you so much for listening. I had a lot of fun filming this episode. I kind of like ranting my thoughts into the microphone, just me. And next week we'll be back with an awesome guest. It's I say it every week, but this show's awesome and I love it. And thank you for sticking by, man. All right, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.